personally, if I do 10 transfers, 8 will be to one of the new fintechs. They don't have branches, they don't have physical structure, but people trust them because they are responsive. You know, there's no need to want to angrily go to a branch because there's usually no problem. And even traders, they prefer to use them because the transfers almost never fail. Now, even people that are barely educated with their phone can open an account with their BVN for the new fintech. Now, we still have bank in 2025 saying, oh, if you don't have a minimum balance of 100,000 naira, we'll close your account. Meanwhile, the new fintechs, they are opening accounts with zero balance and giving people instant overdrafts, which is like a loan instantly with no collateral or nothing. So, and that is what people want.
This is Soup Business Landscape. Fintechs have outpaced traditional banks in retail and digital experience. Mind you, retail and digital experience. Now, this particular research is coming from KPMG. Fintech companies are now leading in retail and digital customer experience, outpacing traditional banks that remain constrained by rigid structures and slower innovation cycles. And according to KPMG's West Africa Banking Industry Customer Experience Survey, that's for 2023 to 2025, the shift became prominent during the 2023 cash crunch. Everybody remembers that like yesterday. Triggered by the Naira redesign, which exposed weaknesses in traditional banking infrastructure and accelerated customer migration to digital platforms. Even at that particular point in time, digital platforms were still giving issues, but yes, they were the go-to options when there was no cash. This is where we are right now. Are we going to say that people are trusting more and more open to the fintech apps than the easy way of just walking to a banking hall, waiting your time and doing your transactions?
Yes, people are getting more comfortable. Me personally, if I do process 10 transfers, 8 will be to one of the new fintechs. They don't have branches, they don't have physical structure, but people trust them because they are responsive. You know, there's no need to want to angrily go to a branch because there's usually no problem. And even traders, they prefer to use them because the transfers almost never fail. In fact, one of them, the slogan for their commercial is, your transfer never fail. And they deliver on that promise. People trust them. They have solved so many problems. They listen. That is what businesses should do. You listen, you get feedback from your customer. And the commercial bank, they were so comfortable. These people came and they totally changed the game. For example, point of sales payment, POS. Before now, with the commercial bank, the traders, they get their money, they get access to their sales after a week. But the fintech, they came and they started processing payments within 24 hours. Now they have went further to do immediate payment. You make your sales now, you have access to your money now. So I don't know if commercial banks have improved, but they were telling the traders, oh, there's nothing we can do. You have to wait 1 week. It's a technology. But people have come with a solution. And especially for petty traders, they want to make their sales, get their money, and restock immediately. And they are providing that solution. Almost everybody on the, and there is cumbersome processes to open an account with the traditional bank. Now, even people that are barely educated with their phone can open an account with their BVN for the new fintech. Now, we still have bank in 2025 saying, oh, if you don't have a minimum balance of 100,000 naira, we'll close your account. Meanwhile, the new fintechs, they are opening accounts with zero balance and giving people instant overdrafts, which is like a loan instantly with no collateral or nothing. So, and that is what people want, especially with what is going on in the country now. Everybody needs a form of overdraft at some point, maybe, you know, before the pay comes or before, and the commercial banks are not providing these services. If at all, they are taking the small money from these people. There are so many fintechs now that does chargeless transfers. They don't even charge you to make transfer.
Some give you 10 naira for each transaction you make.
You understand? So they are providing solution, they are listening, and they are doing very, very well, and the future is so great for them. The only thing is, I beg the government to keep a close monitoring on them, because they are prone to be used for crime.
Okay.
So that's the only thing. But other than that, the future is very great for them. And I'm very, very excited, because these are banks that are funded by young Nigerians. Most of them are even Nigerians trained in Nigerian universities. So it makes me proud of being a Nigerian, that, okay, we are changing the world. And I believe in the next couple of months, next couple of years, they are going to start buying other banks across Africa. They are going to become
Fintechs will start buying banks.
Yes, yeah, across Africa, they are going to become Pan-African bank, because they are providing solutions that is tailored for Africa.
Okay, African tailored solutions. When was the last time you visited a banking hall?
That has been quite a long time.
Okay, now let's look at volume of transactions from banks and compare it to what fintechs are doing. Not volume of people, not volume of customers, but volume of transactions.
Volume of transactions, I think you give it to the fintechs.
Are we sure?
Somehow.
There are fintechs that you have a max of
Okay.
the volume of transaction you can do, no matter who you are.
Yes, okay. Now, the area where the conventional banks can stand out when it comes to volume of transaction is because of their dealings with governments, ministries, departments, and agencies. And I don't think there are laws within the government structure that permits their agencies to start using the fintechs for now.
Well, but they do. Most government payments, they tell you have to pay through a POS, or you have, and a lot of those POS.
Okay, when I'm talking about fintechs, like their platform when they operate as banks,
Okay.
not to use a POS for transfer and all of that, because we know the reason why. Even the conventional banks found a way to be pressuring the CBN to use those sort of bureaucratic laws with which they use it to monitor and to structure the operations of the fintechs. That has been the battle on ground, even till now. But I'm glad that that has not, come into fruition. But somehow I think they all came to a compromise, which is where we have, they went to the POS and the number of cash that you can get over the counter in order to give some form of leverage to the conventional banks, so they too can, up the ante in how much they make. But if you look at the impact of the fintechs, it has helped the Nigerian government in its drive for financial inclusion across Nigeria.
Okay.
Because even with the existence of the conventional banks before now, you can see the level of financial inclusion were very, very back. Let's go back even maybe 5 years, or back to 2020 or 2023, when at that specific time when the cash crunch became something to deal with by virtue of the Naira redesign policy that the Buhari administration brought. That was when you could see the lapses of the conventional banks, and we saw how the fintechs were able to take advantage of those lapses, and they grew on it. And to this, for now, as we feel, he was talking about some of the fintechs buying conventional banks. You go to some African countries now, and you complain about the Nigerian banking system. If you go there, you will not only complain, you will weep. And that's why I was listening to an expert yesterday that gave a reflection of how the economy turned out in 2025, what we should be looking at in 2026, and the areas that we should be looking at when it comes to investment in 2026. He was talking about investing beyond borders, investment beyond borders, continental investment, regional investments, and also our investment should not only be in Naira, but also in dollar and the currencies of other African countries and other European countries as a way of sustaining and keeping your money. The fintechs in Nigeria and their owners they have the muscle to buy even some of the conventional banks, to take over some of the conventional banks in some of the African countries. In some of the African countries. Now, I may not be specific in which African country, but some of the African countries, I think so, because of what we're doing here. And if they're able to do that, they'll be able to sync transactions where you are able to do transactions and businesses from there. And that equally itself allow the businesses in those places to want to come down to Nigeria and look for how they can explore the business environment.
Okay.
So what the fintech have done so far is fantastic. And if you give them the next 10 years with the way and manner they are going, right?
10 years is 10 years not too much?
Well, if you say so, but I'm just, leaving other economic shocks that might come to destabilize the system.
Okay.
If you give them that amount of time, I tell you, the conventional banks will either be thinking of creating an arm that is completely given to fintechs and that is running that aspect so they can face their conventional way of doing business because of what it gets from the government.
Okay, let's get back to this particular discourse right now. There was this policy 2 years ago that said fintechs were not banks. If you remember, that fintechs should not be holding or operating savings accounts.
Yeah.
Let's just say savings. That was 2024. It went into 2025. But we still see a lot of people use fintechs, majorly because most fintechs now have a backbone. It used to be Wema Bank and several other banks that were more of the backbones. Like you made a suggestion of fintechs being able to acquire some banks or acquire a bank. The biggest fintech from numbers right now should be Flutterwave.
Okay.
How can we go past that particular policy and see fintechs not just being able to do what the normal conventional bank will do, but grow beyond where they are right now and not depending on the bank to be able to complete some transactions?
Yeah, a lot of fintechs are already doing it, which is just for them to acquire a microfinance bank license.
Yeah, a lot have that already.
So once they have that, the microfinance bank license give you the permission to hold cash. And as they grow, they can go further to upgrade to a full commercial bank. It's just about their capital base.
This is also kind of policies that we need to also check. Microfinance banks are supposed to be localized.
Right.
They are not national banks. But we see some of the fintechs that have these microfinance banks, but we know that they operate nationally, some even outside this country.
Yeah,
but they have a microfinance bank.
Yeah, but every microfinance bank is now digital. Okay. So it makes them a national bank, meaning if you join a microfinance... No. In practical.
Yeah,
in practical.
Practicing and on paper.
Sir, if once you tell everybody to go digital, you are telling them to go national. Even TV now, the NCC has compelled every TV station to go digital. So there is no longer, so if everybody compel and become digital, then they are no longer a local TV. It means the NTA Ibadan becomes a national TV because with digital, people in Kano can now watch them.
That's practicality.
That's the practicality of it.
Have we tried backtracking and also seeing that where technology is taking us to, that what is on paper in those policies, that microfinance banks are localized banks, is not going to work?
Yeah, we do a lot of policy somersaults, but my point is that once you ask any bank to go digital, then they become a national bank. That is it.
I would say national banks or international banks, because I can't use Flutterwave anywhere in the world.
It becomes a national bank within our shores.
Okay.
So now, international bank, they can do international transaction, but they need a conduit. They need an international partner that will process their payments. Even for a lot of Nigerian commercial bank, when you want to, you need a conduit. You need a intermediary bank. They usually use like a bank in America the money will pass through them to go to Asia or whatever. Except for the new deal that was signed between Nigeria and China, where we can now send money directly to China without going through America, but that is that. But if they have a microfinance license and there's a law that asks them to go digital for easy monitoring, then they become a national bank.
Okay, at the rate at which we are going right now, we want to see, like Priya said earlier on, financial inclusion. You've mentioned these ones on this table. We say, okay, good and fine. If we want to reach everybody, Kauranamuda, in Ikom, in my village, somewhere in Ilori, then that means connectivity is an issue. Federal government came out last year and said every local government is going to get connected on the federal government
Yes.
initiative on
Yes.
internet connection. How far and how fast is this going to happen this year?
It's not going to. It's a project that is going to take about 10 years because it's a lot of investments. They need to physically lay fiber cables. That is what they are doing, and they have only started the pilot phase. So the pilot phase is you try some, then you now look for an investor that will take up the responsibility. So they have started the pilot phase, and it's sad to say some of the pilot phase were politicized. Some capital cities, some of the local government and in capital city, where they are even putting the pilot phase. I'm not sure if the minister is aware of this or the president is aware of this, but this is supposed to be connectivity for, most importantly, to the rural areas. Remote areas, but we are seeing fiber cables being laid, the federal government in some capital city. Now, that being said, while we are waiting for that, there's the young people in Kenya, they've created a solution that is not internet-based for money transfer and transactions. It's called M-Pesa. You just need GSM network to be able to transfer, and your phone number is your account number. And the same way we use our WhatsApp, that's the way you chat with people to send them money, to receive money. So these are something that we can adopt here. I don't know if M-Pesa is coming here, but I know they're already in Ghana. They call it Momo in Ghana too.
Momo.
So it's phone number and GSM network. So, and these are African solutions created by Africans for Africa. So I have a good faith in the young African entrepreneurs. We need more Africans to stop acting like victims and start creating solutions for our problem. It's high time that we stop complaining and we stop screaming about how European underdevelop us or all our constraints about, oh, there's no power, there's no internet. We should come together and find solutions to all of these problems.
Okay, getting business on the go, getting payments, it's one major means of moving trades as fast as possible. Aside logistics, you want to be able to step into any community, buy, sell, get paid, come back, repeat, then they circle. And these fintechs have proved that yes, they can get this done. Now, what should government, looking at publicity, what should government be doing right now to make that trust stable in communities?
Trust stable in communities.
Yes.
With regards to the operation of fintechs.
With regard to the operation of fintechs and utilizing of fintechs, to also push the cashless policy that the government is trying to push.
Well, if the government, like you rightly mentioned, last year has talked about establishing internet presence in the 774 local government areas, that's going to, bring connectivity, then I tell you, the fintechs will run on that infrastructure. And in this case, not only the fintechs, including the conventional banking system, are going to run on that to make sure that all these communities, it's easy and seamless to carry out transactions. But in the conversation where you're talking about the fintechs acquiring banks or operating domestic, local, or national in that state, in terms of policy, when we talk about the conventional banks, capitalization of banks, which they are currently going through, by virtue of that category, there are different amounts that you are supposed to pay. So that means the fintechs are bulldozing their way through without paying that money and nationalizing themselves. Maybe that's the question we need to ask. However, the government should avoid any temptation to want to rope in the fintechs with the same rope it has roped the conventional banking system, because that in itself is going to, is going to completely block the government policy of financial inclusion. The government should face infrastructure development and still look at the way the fintechs run. If there is anything that is going to hinder them from running at liberty or flexible in a way to help the Nigerian economy to not only expand, but also we should be looking at the Minister of Digital Economy, looking at the Minister of Digital Economy liaising with other African countries. Maybe first of all, we can look at ECOWAS and see the way our conventional banking system are connected within that space to facilitate transactions without any bottlenecks. by virtue of the trading activities, and also look at how the fintechs can run on established infrastructure by way of connectivity to run with fintechs that are also domiciled in those areas, in those parts of town, to facilitate. And I think this itself is going to solve the problem of not only bringing communities from different borders, but in one block in the same region to trade, but also it's going to expand the network of financial inclusion, which will promote trade and bring us to that place where we should be as a nation.